Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's your favorite African princess, Luscious Hadiza, the one and only Luscious. Today is Focus Friday on Africa Living with Hadiza, your favorite African channel. Today we're going to be talking about the one and only Marcus Garvey. Indeed, a very controversial figure, but a very powerful African hero nonetheless. We're going to be diving deep into his life and everything that he contributed to Africa and the Caribbean. So sit back, relax as we take this deep dive into an amazing man's life, and I'd love to know in your comments what you think or what you've learned from the life and the times of Marcus Garvey.
May I say something to you to give you a true knowledge of yourself and life, so that the same glory and success attained by other men who understand themselves may be yours. Man in the full knowledge of himself is a superb and supreme creature of creation. When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends. Man should understand himself because man is full of knowledge, and this knowledge is a gift of nature. When Mother Nature created man, she deprived him of nothing. He was given the faculty of understanding all things around him. This faculty for understanding has not been taken away from him. None of his senses have been taken away from him. So there is no excuse for the black man in lacking the knowledge that man is used to beautify the world and produce all that he needs for his happiness and civilization. Look the world over, and whatever you see in it that is pleasing to man, contributing to man's comfort, to his needs and to his satisfaction, it is but the work of man. Man blessed with the knowledge of himself and the understanding of all things around him. If you are able to live with the knowledge of yourself and with the greater knowledge of nature, you must know what is good and what is not. You must know what is finite. You must know that which is material, physical and otherwise is at your disposal to create or otherwise use. If we leave America and go over to the east to Japan, they will be telling their fellow citizens of Japan of the wonderful accomplishments of the Japanese people, proving that man is moving onward as time moves on. But you have hated yourselves as you have done in previous years. You have shown malice, prejudice, and hate to each other. And the result is that while other races have made progress, while India has made progress towards nationalism, while Ireland has made progress towards republicanism, while the whole world has made progress in man's accomplishments, you still stand fighting yourselves, dishonoring yourselves, showing no disposition toward that higher life so that you will be abundantly blessed. So reflect and think that you were created for some purpose other than exhibiting malice toward your neighbor or fellow men of your own race. What a pity it is that we cannot stand united without a written law. There is no written law compelling other races to stand together. They are brought together by the gentle touch of nature. The unwritten law of nature causes them to stand together on all occasions. So wheresoever you find them in the field, that one gentle touch of nature causes them to stand together, if need be, die together. But with the black man, you can preach to him from the pulpits. You lecture from the platforms, from the byways and the hedges. The spirit of cooperation, but he will not cooperate. You talk to him gently, you try talking harshly to him, he still will not cooperate. The result is that he falls prey to those who understand themselves and walk through the world making you their serfs and slaves. You must acquire an understanding of yourselves. Look around you. See the smiling pictures of nature, the beautiful hedges, the wonderful mountains, the wonderful vegetation all around. But because of your disposition to each other, you live in suffering, in want, in penury, and in debt. You lack the gentle touch of nature, love for each other. You hate yourselves. Black men, and what is wrong with you? Why have you no affection for yourselves? Could I hope to see you living among yourselves as the people I've spoken of? Living in charity, love, and in sympathy with each other? It can be done. I wonder if you will adapt that course. Isn't it easier to enjoy prosperity than to live in ignorance? And we must acquire the higher knowledge of life. Black men and black women, will you get the knowledge that the white man has that causes him to be leaders and masters in the world? They are not gods with a peculiar source for understanding the world around them. They have only given expression to the knowledge of their humanity and been able to use and conquer all to their satisfaction and glory. And that is why they are always greater than you in every community that you find them. Isn't it strange that wheresoever the white man is found, he takes precedence over you? Why is that so? Answer that for yourselves, black men and black women. Wheresoever you come in contact with the white man, you always have to go down in defeat before him. Whether it be in England, in France, or in America, you always have to go down to the white man, and yet he has 2 eyes, 2 feet, 2 hands, same passions, same senses and feelings as you have. Your feet are not put on opposite sides, nor your hands turned around the other way. But it's because you fail to use your will, your knowledge, and your mental faculties to the point where you will enjoy life around you. I'm only here and not in the gutters and in the pond of despair because I use my intelligence. And I swear that no man alive shall ever use his intelligence in understanding the works of nature more than I. I shall rise as high as he ascends. I shall meet him on the same platform of mental equality and fight him till thy kingdom come, because nature created us equal. I want you to make up your mind as I've made up my mind years ago. Make up your mind that you will rise to the knowledge of your soul.
This is one of those speeches you hear that make you feel like you can go out and conquer the world, right? Marcus Mossiah Garvey was quite the charismatic, and even though he was considered a controversial figure, one thing is undeniable, and that is his passion for the black man, his passion for the prosperity and the purpose of the black man, and his overwhelming drive to see the unity and the progress of the black race, which he fought for till his death. Marcus Mossiah Garvey was born on the 17th of August 1887 in St. Anne's Bay, a town in the British colony of Jamaica. In the context of colonial Jamaican society, which had a colorist social hierarchy, Garvey was considered at the lowest end, being a black child who was of full African descent. Later genetic research nevertheless revealed that he had ancestors from the Iberian Peninsula. Garvey's paternal great-grandfather had been born into slavery prior to its abolition in Jamaica. His surname, which was of Irish origin, had been inherited from his family's former enslavers. His father, Marcus Garvey, was a stonemason, and his mother, Sarah Richards, was a domestic servant and the daughter of peasant farmers. Marcus had had two previous partners before Sarah, having 6 children between them. Sarah bore him 4 additional children, of whom Marcus was the youngest, although 2 died in infancy. Because of his profession, Marcus's family were wealthier than many of their peasant neighbors. Marcus was, however, reckless with his money, and over the course of his life lost most of the land he owned to meet payments. Marcus had a book collection and was self-educated. He also served as an occasional layman at a local Wesleyan church. Marcus was an intolerant and punitive father and husband. He never had a close relationship with his son. Up to the age of 14, Garvey attended a local church school. Further education was unaffordable for the family, and when not in school, Garvey worked on his maternal uncle's tenant farms. He had friends with whom he had once broke the windows of a church, resulting in his arrest. Some of his friends were white, although he found that as they grew older, they distanced themselves from him. He later recalled that a close childhood friend was a white girl. We were 2 innocent fools who never dreamed of a race feeling and problem. In 1901, Marcus was apprenticed to his godfather, a local printer. In 1904, the printer opened another branch at Port Maria, where Garvey began to work, traveling from St. Anne's Bay each morning. He later said he first experienced racism in grade school in Jamaica, primarily from white teachers. In 1903, he traveled to Kingston, Jamaica, and soon became involved in union activities. In 1907, he took part in an unsuccessful printer strike, and the experience kindled in him a passion for political activism. 3 years later, he traveled throughout Central America, working as a newspaper editor and writing about the exploitation of migrant workers in the plantations. He later traveled to London, where he attended Birkbeck College, University of London, and worked for the African Times and Orient Review, which advocated Pan-African nationalism. During his travels, he became convinced that uniting blacks was the only way to improve their condition. Towards that end, he departed England on the 14th of June 1914, returning to Jamaica on the 15th of July 1914. He founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association in Kingston later that month, intending to unite all of Africa and its diaspora into the organization. The organization was founded to work for the advancement of people of African ancestry around the world. Its motto was One God, One Aim, One Destiny, and his slogan was Africa for the Africans, at home and abroad. An article entitled The Negro's Greatest Enemy, published in Current History, September 1923, Garvey explained the origin of the organization's name. Where did the name of the organization come from? It was while speaking to a West Indian Negro who was a passenger with me from South Southampton, who was returning home to the West Indies from Bastoland with his Basto wife. I further learned of the horrors of native life in Africa. He related to me in conversation such horrible and pitiable tales that my heart bled within me. Retiring from the conversation to my cabin all day and the following night, I pondered over the subject matter of that conversation, and at midnight, lying flat on my back, the vision and thought came to me that I should name the organization the Universal Negro Improvement Association and Africa Communities Imperial League. Such a name, I thought, would embrace the purpose of all Black humanity. Thus to the world a name was born, a movement created, and a man became known. The Negro World was founded on August 17, 1918 as a weekly newspaper to express the ideas of the organization. Garvey contributed a front-page editorial every week in which he developed the organization's position on different issues related to people of African ancestry around the world in general and the UNIA in particular, eventually claiming a population of 500,000. The newspaper was printed in several languages. It contained a page specifically for women readers, documented international events related to African ancestry, and was distributed throughout the African diaspora until publication ceased in 1933. By 1920, the association had over 1,900 divisions in more than 40 countries. Most of the divisions were located in the United States, which had become the UNIA's base of operation. There were, however, offices in several Caribbean countries, with Cuba having the most. Divisions also existed in Central and South America. For the entire month of August 1920, the UNIA/ACL held its first international convention at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The 20,000 attending members promulgated the Declaration of the Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World on August 13, 1920, and elected the leaders of the UNIA as the leaders for the Negro people of the world. The organization put forth a program based on its declaration, making the evolution of the movement as one promoting Black nationalism. It sought the upliftment of the Black race and encouraged self-reliance and nationhood. Among the declarations was one proclaiming the red, black, and green flag as the official banner of the African race. Under the provisions of the UNIA Constitution, Marcus Garvey was elected Provincial President of Africa, a mostly ceremonial title, and UNIA officially designated the song Ethiopia, Thou Land of Our Fathers as the official anthem of Africa and the Africans at home and abroad. Many outside the movement ridiculed Garvey for giving himself this title. There was tension between the UNIA and the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The NAACP and the UNIA differed in their approach. While the NAACP was a multiracial organization which promoted racial integration, UNIA had a Black-only membership policy. The NAACP focused its attention on what it termed the talented tenth of the African American population, such as doctors, lawyers, and teachers, whereas the UNIA included many more poorer people and Afro-Caribbean migrants in its rank, seeking to project itself as a mass organization. The growing tension between the UNIA and the NAACP caused the latter supporters to accuse Garvey of stemming their efforts at bringing about racial integration in the US. Garvey was dismissive of the NAACP leader W.E.B. Du Bois, and in one issue of the Negro World, he called him a reactionary under the pay of the white man. Du Bois generally tried to ignore Garvey, but at the same time wanted to learn all he could about Garvey's movement. In 1921, Garvey twice reached out to Du Bois, asking him to contribute to the UNIA publications, but the offer was rebuffed. Their relationship became acrimonious. In 1923, Du Bois described Garvey as a little fat black man, ugly but with intelligent eyes and a big head. By 1924, historian Colin Grant had suggested the two hated each other. By 1919, Marcus Garvey and the UNIA launched the Black Star Line, a shipping company that would establish trade and commerce between Africans in America, the Caribbean, South and Central America, Canada, and Africa. The UNIA began selling shares for this new business, seeking to challenge white domination of the maritime industry. Garvey envisioned a shipping and passenger line traveling between Africa and the Americas, which would be Black-owned, Black-staffed, and utilized by Black patrons. He thought that the project could be launched launched by raising $2 million from African American donors, publicly declaring that any black person who did not buy stock in the company would be worse than a traitor to the cause of struggling Ethiopia. Garvey incorporated the company and then thought about trying to purchase a ship. Many African Americans took great pride in buying stock in the company, seeing it as an investment in their community's future. Garvey also promised that when the company began turning a profit, they would receive significant financial returns on their investment. To advertise this stock, he traveled to Virginia and then in September 1919 to Chicago, where he was accompanied by 7 other UNIA members. In Chicago, he was arrested and fined for violating the Blue Sky laws, which banned the sale of stock in the city without a license. With growing quantities of money coming in, a 3-man auditing committee was established, which found the UNIA's funds were poorly recorded and the company's books were not balanced. This was followed by a breakdown in trust between the directors of the Black Star Line, with Garvey discharging 2 of them and publicly humiliating them at the next UNIA meeting. People continued buying stock regardless, and by September 1919, the Black Star Line company had accumulated $50,000 by selling stock. It could thus afford a 30-year-old tramp ship. The ship was formally launched on 31st of October. In 1921, Garvey traveled to the Caribbean aboard a new Black Star Line ship called the Antonio Maceo. While in Jamaica, he criticized its inhabitants as being backward and claimed that Negroes are the most lazy, the most careless, and the most indifferent people in the world. His comments in Jamaica earned him many enemies who criticized him on multiple fronts, including the fact that he left his destitute father to die in an almshouse. Attacks back and forth between Garvey and his critics appeared in the letters published by the Gleaner. Because of his outspoken activism and black nationalism, Garvey soon became a target of J. Edgar Hoover at the Bureau of Investigation (BOI), a precursor of the FBI. In January 1922, Garvey was arrested and charged with mail fraud for having advertised the sale of stock in a ship, the Orion, which the Black Star Line did not yet own. He was bailed for $2,500. Hoover and the BOI were committed to securing a conviction. They had also received complaints from a small number of the Black Star Line stock owners who wanted them to pursue the matter further. Garvey spoke out against the charges he faced, but focused on blaming not the state but rival African American groups for them. After his arrest, Garvey announced that the activities of the Black Star Line were being suspended. In June 1922, Garvey met with Edward Young Clark, the Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK, at the Klan's office in Atlanta. Garvey made a number of incendiary speeches in the months leading up to that meeting. In some, he thanked the whites for Jim Crow. Garvey once stated, "I regard the Klan, the Anglo-Saxon clubs, and white American societies, as far as the Negro is concerned, as better friends of the race than all other groups of hypocritical whites put together. I like honesty and fair play. You may call me a Klansman if you will, but potentially every white man is a Klansman as far as the Negro in competition with whites socially, economically, and politically is concerned, and there is no use lying." News of Garvey's meeting with the KKK soon spread, and it was covered on the front pages of many African American newspapers, causing widespread unrest. When news of the meeting was revealed, it generated much surprise and anger among African Americans. Grant noted that this marked the most significant turning point in his popularity. Several prominent black Americans, Chandler Owen, A. Philip Randolph, and William Pickens, launched the Garvey Must Go campaign in the wake of the revelation. Many of these critics played to the nativist ideas by emphasizing Garvey's Jamaican identity and sometimes calling for his deportation. In 1923, after a controversial trial, Garvey was found guilty of these charges and was sentenced to a maximum of 5 years in prison. He began serving his sentence at Atlanta Prison in 1925. It was from there that he authored his famous paper, First Message to the Negroes of the World from Atlanta Prison. In it, he wrote, "After my enemies are satisfied, in life or death, I shall come back to serve even as I have served before. In life, I shall be the same. In death, I shall be a terror to the foes of Negro liberty. If death has power, then count on me in death to be the real Marcus Garvey I would like to be. If I may come in an earthquake or a cyclone or a plague or a pestilence, or as God will have me, then be assured that I shall never desert you and make your enemies triumph over you." When he was released from prison in 1928 after serving 3 years of his sentence, Garvey traveled to Geneva, Switzerland to speak to the League of Nations on issues of race and worldwide abuse of people of color. A few months later, he returned to Jamaica, where he established the People's Political Party, that nation's first modern political organization. Its platform focused on workers' rights and the poor. In 1935, Garvey returned to London, where he lived and worked until his death at the age of 52. Marcus Garvey died on June 10, 1940 from complications brought on by 2 strokes. Due to World War II travel restrictions, he was first buried in St. Mary's Roman Catholic Cemetery in Kensal Green, London, but on November 13, 1964, his body was exhumed and buried beneath the Marcus Garvey Memorial in National Heroes Park in Kingston, Jamaica. While in London, Garvey continued to write and coordinate the establishment of the School of African Philosophy in Toronto to train future leaders to the Universal Negro Improvement Association. By then, the organization had more than 2,000 chapters worldwide. Although his legacy as a leader and activist lives on, Garvey's separatist and black nationalist views were not embraced by many of his peers. In fact, W.E.B. Du Bois of the NAACP famously said, "Marcus Garvey is the most dangerous enemy of the Negro race in America and in the world." However, Garvey's supporters preferred to focus on his key message, which was steeped in black pride. He is credited with coining the phrase, "Black is beautiful." His philosophy is perhaps best exemplified in the following quote: "We must canonize our own saints, create our own martyrs, and elevate to positions of fame and honor black men and women who have made their distinct contributions to our racial history. I am the equal of any white man, and I want you to feel the same way." Thank you so much to everyone that watched. This brings us to the end of our video today. I hope you have enjoyed learning about the powerful and controversial Marcus Garvey. Whatever it is that you may think of him, the fact still remains that he was a deeply passionate black man who wanted the true emancipation of the black African race. I would like to hear from you in the comment section. What do you think about his ideologies, his theories, and the man Marcus Garvey? Thank you so much for watching. This is another episode of African Heroes with Hadiza on our Focus Friday episodes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed every minute of it, and I hope you learned something amazing about this true African hero. Let me hear from you in the comment sections what you think about this man, and I will see you same time, same place next week Friday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so we can continue to learn about our incredible African heroes. Thank you so much, and I will see you next Friday. Bye.